And welcome into Gator Bytes on the 1010XL.com podcast network, also being simulcast on the Florida Gator 1010XL Facebook page. Today's Gator podcast is brought to you by Southeast Orthopedic Specialists. They're Northeast Florida's leading orthopedic center, providing an unparalleled level of care across numerous locations in both Jacksonville and St. Augustine. That includes Riverside, Northside, the South Side, the beaches, Fleming Island, and St. John's. In fact, my wife just had a good appointment over there at Southeast Orthopedic Specialists. He is Denny Thompson. I'm the hacker, Ryan Green. You are Florida Gator fans, both watching and listening.
Well, that's assumptive.
Yeah, you like that? I figure Gator fans are listening to Gator Bytes.
There could be Georgia fans or Florida State fans, because, we're elite at this.
That's true. That's true. You know what?
People just want to hear it.
You're exactly right. That is very true. There could be other fan bases, and if you are another fan of another team, welcome, and it's nothing but Gator talk here for about the next half an hour.
Welcome and bump you.
All right, so Florida, Billy Napier, 45 days on the job today. We got to get into the transfer portal. We got to get into guys that are returning. But I got to tell you, Denny, in watching his press conference last Friday, first off, was that odd to you that a Division I coach at a program like Florida just holds a 30-minute Q&A with the media about what's going on with the program?
Mm-hmm.
I salute him for doing it. I thought it was great. I just don't think we see that an awful lot around the country.
No, it's not, and I'll tell you, it's odd that it's happening in Florida. It's not odd that it's happening, though, because this is all about recruiting all the time. Georgia just had a national championship celebration that they turned into a recruiting event.
Right.
Okay. Everything that's being done, if you want to excel in this league, is with the emphasis on recruiting. And so if there's a press conference, it is recruiting based. If there's an announcement, it is recruiting based. If there's anything going on this time of year, you can bet, if it's not something really bad, that it is centered around momentum in recruiting, period. So the more as a new coach that you can put yourself out front, the better it is. And you want your fan base to see you, and I'm sure, on some level that, there's ticket sales, there's renewals, there's buildings being built, and he's got to keep that he's not Dan Mullen in the sense that when he was hired, everybody didn't already know him because he wasn't already in Gainesville. And so he's got to let people get to know him. But make no mistake about this, everything this man's doing right now has to do with recruiting, and it is what we asked for. It is what we didn't get out of Dan that we're getting now.
Let me ask you this, because there's a lot of on-the-field stuff with transfers, guys coming back that we need to get into. First and foremost, you are with 6 points, quarterback training. You are in the know, if you will. You talk to guys all around the world of college football, coaches as well. I've seen the people that call your cell phone. It's a who's who list. Yeah. You know what's going on. I got to tell you, bar none, Gator fans that I've talked to, they seemingly love this guy.
Yeah.
45 days in. Should they? Do you think on the surface he's doing as good a job as what Gator fans believe he is doing?
I think every fan base, especially when it comes to new coaches, allows themselves to get a little too hyped up, but he's doing a good job, and he is exactly what the doctor ordered for this program right now. He's a high-energy recruiter. He loves to recruit, and you can tell by the posts. Like, how many posts did we see over Dan Mullen's tenure of him in the plane going to see a recruit? Hardly none. Right? How many posts did we see of Dan Mullen, leading the recruiting charge on official visits? We'd see pictures, but we wouldn't see the behind-the-scenes stuff. And I was on a couple of them, and Dan just didn't like to recruit.
Well, it's an entire social media movement that Napier has installed.
So the hire from Georgia was big. What's her official title? I can't remember her name, but I've met her a couple of times. So she was at Georgia. She's going to bring that element. And the staff that he's put together, just sheer volume of it, sheer size of it, right? They have a lot of people to move towards momentum on social media, and that's what they're doing. Is they're making it one of those things like Georgia and Alabama have done, to where if you're a kid and you are a 4-star or 5-star kid, I want it to seem like all of the other 4 and 5 stars are coming to us to visit. You should too.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it's true or not, I want social media to reflect that, and that's what they're doing right now.
It's very impressive, and now we get to the staff, and Napier even addressed it at his press conference. They were joking around with him. Can you give us a number as to how many people you've hired? And Napier goes, well, we probably haven't hired but half of the guys or gals we intend to hire. I mean, they're going to hire a lot more people, and even since the press conference, you got Rob Sale, you got Bateman from North Carolina, you got all these guys that have come in even since last Friday. I mean, they are adding dozens upon dozens of people to the staff, to the recruiting trail. Again, what we knew he was going to do is coming to fruition. They are building something that Florida simply did not have under certainly McElwain and Mullen, and you can probably go back to Muschamp as well.
He certainly didn't have the resources, and I think a lot of this, you have to tip your hat to Florida, too, to UF. Remember when he signed the contract, when Napier signed the contract, we talked about that budget, that coach's budget. And it wasn't and I may be wrong, going off memory, it wasn't the $7.5 million.
It was the additional.
It was that additional $5 million.
Yes.
At the time, I was like, man, that's got to be in the top 3 for highest in the country. That $5 million there for your off the field, that goes a long way, man. That goes a long, long way. And we're just talking about salary budget. We're not talking about recruiting budget. We're not talking about what they're spending on flights and to get kids in and all that kind of stuff, and what they're spending on all the additional stuff. That's just salary. So they are making a significant investment into recruiting, because we just watched a national championship game, and I was at it, field level, that they're playing a different game than what Florida's playing. There's a whole different speed. There's a whole different cat out there than what's in Gainesville right now.
Let me ask you this. Did it just take a decade of getting beat over the head by Alabama and Georgia for Florida to finally wake up and realize, all right, if we want to compete, we got to start doing what Alabama and Georgia are doing? Why is it 2022 and Florida just realizes this? Why didn't they do this in 2014, 15, 16?
There's a couple answers to that. We have this conversation all the time in the facility about just Nick Saban, really, because Nick Saban has been the pioneer with all this. Nick Saban has been the one that has said, we're going to do it this way, and he's had a supportive admin that has allowed him to do whatever he wants to do, and then it works, and so then somebody else does it. 10 years ago, if you would have said, we're going to have this many people on a football staff, we're going to have this much money going towards recruiting, we're going to have this much money going to the off-the-field staff, people would have said, you are insane. There's no way.
Yeah.
Right? It's not just Florida. I bet you, and I'm guessing 85% of college football is not doing this yet, because it's still so new that it's uncomfortable. It's uncomfortable to say, all right, here's a head coach that we're going to pay $7 million to. We're going to pay $7.5 million to his staff. We're going to pay $5 million to his support staff. Then we're going to put another $5 million into recruiting. And then we're going to put $100 million into this facility. And then we're going to do these NIL deals. Like, we got to have that. Like, it's insane, the amount of money that's being spent in college football right now.
Are they basically, Florida that is, are they basically following Georgia's blueprint?
Yeah.
I mean,
much
across the board.
To a large degree, as much as they can. It's 2 different campuses, 2 different places where they're at with facilities. And they don't, Florida has Florida kids, Georgia has Florida kids, but Georgia also has Atlanta kids. Florida's got to find that Atlanta market, right? That would have been nice for Emory to do really well here, because that could have helped a little bit up there. And so, I mean, in some ways, you could make the argument right now that logistically Georgia's in a better position, because that Atlanta market's easier to get to, right? And they've already done so much damage in Florida that those kids are automatically going up there at least for a visit. Florida's got to get there. But yeah, as far as the model is concerned, I think it's very, very similar to what Georgia's doing.
Back to Florida in a moment. We were talking about this on XL Primetime about a week or so ago. Georgia has been able to come into the Sunshine State and basically just wreak havoc, get whoever they want, because they were competing against Mark Richt down at Miami. They were competing against Jim McElwain at Florida. They were competing against a tapped-out Jimbo Fisher and Willie Taggart at Florida State. And then you continue with Manny Diaz at Miami and Dan Mullen at Florida. Mullen, a good coach, not a very good recruiter. Now that Mike Norvell seems to have things going in the right direction in Tallahassee, Mario Cristobal is going to do very well in South Florida. Billy Napier obviously proving himself early in the game as well. Not that Georgia's necessarily going to take a giant step back, but they were shooting fish in a barrel with recruiting.
Yeah, you're right.
Now with Cristobal and Napier and Norvell, is it going to be a little harder for Kirby?
Yeah, I think it'll be a little harder. But if you really, and that's where I was kind of going, if you want to do damage to Georgia, though, then you've got to be able to go to Atlanta the way they come to Florida.
Yeah.
You've got to go take, like, they've got little pipelines. You know, Washington's from Arizona, and the other Bowers is from California, and the talk for years has been, okay, if you're in Florida, why would you waste, you know, a trip to California to go see a kid when you could be recruiting 20 in Florida?
Right.
Well, the way that Kirby has set up his recruiting staff and the way that Nick Saban has set up his recruiting class, they can do that because they're still recruiting 20 in their home state. That's where Florida is trying to get to. So yeah, you can provide more resistance to the state of Florida, but then you got to start to move in on their turf, and you got to start to go get those one-offs in California, Arizona, those places that are generational type players and that all played significant roles. I mean, you look at the main guys in that national championship game. You're talking about Bryce Young from California.
Mm-hmm.
You're talking about two tight ends from the West Coast.
N'Kobe Dean's a Mississippi kid.
N'Kobe Dean, Mississippi, yeah. Those are the ones that you have to be able to go snag out of somebody else's backyards and recruit your home state really well.
Channing Tindall, he's a South Carolina kid. You got a bunch of guys.
Yeah, a lot of
same
them.
situation.
I mean, Stetson was homegrown, but outside of that, I mean, you would be hard pressed to find a lot of those guys.
Today's Gator Bytes podcast is brought to you by Southeast Orthopedic Specialists. For the highest quality care, you can rely on Southeast Orthopedic Specialists for any orthopedic injury or concern. You can log on to their website by going to se-ortho.com, and you can listen for Southeast Orthopedic Specialist, the good doctor, Kevin Murphy, on Thursday mornings in the 7 o'clock hour with Jeff and Dan right here on 1010XL for his weekly analysis of injuries in sports. In college football, when you hire a coach, obviously that coach is going to bring coaches from that staff with him. We saw Billy Napier bring a bunch of guys from Louisiana with him on the staff. But as the transfer portal, and as the one-time transfer and not sitting out with a penalty, not having to sit out a year, as we get further along in this, it seems that not only when you hire a coach, Denny, like Napier, not only is he going to bring coaches with him, they're going to bring players with him. Florida has not one, not two, but 3 transfers from Louisiana, including 2 of which, now look, again, they're Louisiana. There's a reason they were there. But I will say this about Osiris Torrance, the big offensive lineman, 335 pounds worth of Osiris Torrance. He was arguably the best offensive lineman in the portal, chose Florida over LSU and Auburn. You also got Montrell Johnson, a freshman running back at Louisiana last year that had 12 touchdowns. Is this the trend now that when you hire the coach, not only are coaches coming with him, but players will come with him as well?
I hope not, because I hate it. I absolutely hate it. I think it's classless.
Wow.
Yeah.
Elaborate.
I think when you go to a school and you recruit kids to that school and you're their coach at that school, and then you decide that you want to go somewhere else, I'm thinking Lincoln Riley is like, hey, I'm right in my head when I'm saying this. What you did at that school, you got paid for at Louisiana, at Oklahoma, at all that kind of stuff. You were there to produce for that school. Just because your paycheck is different doesn't mean you go back and you by default hurt that school that fulfilled their role. They paid you every time that you were there. Your check was in your account every single time.
Can I stop you right there for a second?
Sure.
Would Torrance and Johnson have even gone to Louisiana if not for Billy Napier?
Irrelevant. Completely irrelevant. Louisiana was paying Billy Napier. Like, if they want to go enter the portal, cool, but there needs to be a rule out there that says you can't follow your coach. Because this is going to get... Here's what's going to happen. is I'm at whatever school and I've got a top 3 class. Well, if I'm a college, I want to buy that top 3 class. So I'm just going to go give this guy $5 million more to come to USC, and then I'm going to have mass departures out of Oklahoma. Or I'm a bowl team that I have put money into my program. I just won a conference championship. And my coach that I got just got his dream job at the University of Florida, and I had a significant role in that because I gave him an opportunity at Louisiana. And how does he repay me? He starts plucking my best players off of my roster?
Right, but are you for the transfer portal?
For the transfer portal.
Okay, but see, then there's the thing. And again, correct me if I'm wrong here. If you're for the transfer portal, so you're for these kids having a right to go somewhere else.
Sure.
If I'm Torrance or if I'm Johnson, or I think there's a third one.
I'm not saying it's against the rules. I'm saying it's immoral.
Well, okay.
That's what I'm saying.
But if
two different things.
If you like Billy Napier, and if you like the coaching staff he had with you, and you're going to leave anyway, well, yeah, I'm just going to follow my coach.
No, I wouldn't take him. I can say that without a shadow of a doubt. If I'm Billy Napier, I wouldn't take him. I got too much respect.
And it happens all over the country.
It does. It's not. I got too much respect for who you just paid me and gave me my chance. And that program has been built, and I'm assuming a buddy of Billy Napier's is now the head coach there, that I'm not going to go pluck all of them out of the program. It rubs me the wrong way, man. It's just, it's tacky. And I hate it.
When Caleb Williams ends up at USC, you're really going to be mad.
Yeah, I think it's, and I like Caleb. I know Caleb. Like, I like Caleb, and what Caleb's doing is getting paid, and he's playing by the rules. Like, everybody's playing by the rules, but it is a bad look. It is a really bad look, and it just, I don't want to hear a coach I'm so tired of hearing coaches talk about morality to kids, and then they go around and betray somebody the way this is happening.
All right, so you're fine with Jalen Kimber leaving Georgia to come to Florida.
Absolutely.
You're fine with Jack Miller leaving Ohio State to come to Florida.
Yeah.
Because they had no affiliation with Billy Napier.
Right.
You have a problem with Osiris Torrance and Montrell Johnson coming to Florida because they played for him at Louisiana.
I don't have a problem with the kids. I have a problem with the coaches taking them.
All right. I look, I think if you're going to transfer anyway, got to put yourself in the mind of a kid. If I'm Osiris,
you don't know if they were going to transfer. You don't know that.
I have no idea. I know Osiris Torrance took 3 visits.
Yeah.
I know he visited Auburn, LSU, and Florida.
He's probably transferring because his coach left.
Probably.
Right?
Which he should have the right to do.
He should have the right to do. Everybody should have the right to do. You just shouldn't be able to follow the coach.
Wow. All right.
Watch. 5 years from now, just watch.
No, I think that's an interesting take, but I almost, and I'd be curious on the comments section here on Facebook Live, I almost think you're going to be in the minority there. Because
I'm sure I will.
If you're okay with the transfer portal, then I don't know why you wouldn't be okay with Torrance saying, I love Billy Napier, the guy's coached me for 3 years, I've improved my football game under Billy Napier.
I'm not talking about the kid, I'm talking about the coach. You're talking about the kid, I'm talking about the coach.
All right.
2 different things. I don't.
You seem very passionate about this.
I'm very passionate about it. I hate it. It is my new pet peeve in college football. I just don't think that you should take money and you should advance, and then once you leave, you should forget about all the things that school did for you and start pillaging their players. So I don't think that should happen. Are these the 3 best players in Louisiana? Probably.
The Johnson and Torrance are definitely in the conversation. I honestly don't know much about the third young man. Is it Cameron Waits? I know he's 6'8", 365 pounds.
Yeah.
That's what I know about him. But I know Torrance was in high demand. From a on-the-field perspective, if I'm a Florida fan watching or listening to this, a kid from Louisiana that played for Billy Napier chose Florida over LSU. He chose Billy Napier over Brian Kelly. That, to me, is a win for Florida. Montrell Johnson, the same thing. He was in demand, and he came to Florida.
He played for Billy Napier.
Right, but what I'm saying is, you choose
I
Florida.
would hope he would choose them.
You choose Florida over LSU.
If he would have chosen LSU over Florida, and when he just played for a couple years for the coach, you'd be going, huh?
Well, there was a Louisiana kid that did go to LSU last week.
I mean, the whole thing, just to me, man, I'm pro portal. I think there needs to be some rules put in place because I hate that kids aren't even making it to a season. They're early signing and hitting the portal. There needs to be some rules put in place. But in this scenario, man, this just in my gut, it bothers me.
All right, let me ask you this. Again, I remember Jalen Kimber He was a really, really high recruit that went to the University of Georgia. It did not work out for him there. He transfers to Florida. You wonder, a guy that's going to get more of an opportunity at Florida, could he be the cornerback version of Brenton Cox? Could he be a guy that comes to Florida, gets on the field, is not buried on the depth chart?
Well, he could be. I mean, what was the kid's name at Florida State?
Jermaine Johnson.
Yeah. I mean, listen, Georgia's that loaded.
Yeah.
Georgia's that loaded that their third string guy is a really good player, and he's not that far behind 1 and 2. Jermaine Johnson's going to be a first-round pick.
Yeah.
And he couldn't get
or
on the
hopefully
field.
the 33rd pick to Jacksonville in the
Right.
second
He
round.
couldn't get on the field at Georgia. So, you know, I don't know. I think we're in a troll society, and so what happens is, you know, that happens, and Georgia fans are like, oh, y'all are picking up the scraps. And, you know, so it's all about the troll, but the reality is, if you went out and you watched a practice at the University of Georgia, University of Florida, most people would not be able, if they didn't have numbers on, you know who they were, you would not be able to tell the difference in the first string guy and the second string guy.
Right.
Like, they're that good at that level, so especially at Georgia. So, I mean, it's a good get. It's a really good get.
Today's Gator Podcast brought to you by Southeast Orthopedic Specialists. They're Northeast Florida's leading orthopedic center, providing an unparalleled level of care across numerous locations in both Jacksonville and St. Augustine. That includes Riverside, Northside, the South Side, the beaches, Fleming Island, and St. John's. As we begin to wrap up Gator Bytes, a couple of things. We mentioned Brenton Cox. He is coming back. Trey Dean is coming back. Ventrell Miller is coming back. The Gators on the defensive side of the ball getting a lot of guys back. Now, offensively, they lost some guys. Gamble is now at UCF. Malik Davis turns pro. Damian Pierce turns pro. Jacob Copeland transferred to Maryland. So now that the waters are going to calm a little bit, you kind of see who's left, who left, and who stayed. How do you think Florida fared in the portal, NFL declarations, all that sort of thing?
I think okay. I think, you know, when you go back and if you went back and you listened to what we were talking about this time last year, we were talking about this defense had a chance to be good, but we couldn't get over what we had seen the year before, right? But talent-wise, there was a lot there.
Yeah.
Right? Keeping Brenton Cox is a big deal.
Brenton Cox is going to be, that's a big deal.
It's a first-round pick.
Yeah.
That's a really big deal. So I think, and oh, by the way, the waters may calm momentarily, but then in May, it's going to, same thing.
Right.
Yeah, it's going to happen again. And there's going to be a whole new, or after spring ball, a whole new crop of guys hit the portal. And in that one, there will be more 4 and 5 stars because they're staying through spring just to kind of see how things go. Or maybe they didn't want to make a mid-year move academically, which is a thing, right? So
I should mention, by the way, Justin Shorter is coming back on the
Shorter's
offense.
come back, yeah. So I think, ask him this question again in June when you have a complete roster, and that's the great thing about college football in this transfer portal is you can rebuild a team pretty dang quickly.
I definitely will ask you that in June because we will be looking for material in June to discuss. So you can assure yourself I will ask you that again in June. I don't know if they're going to land Harold Perkins, the 5-star Texas A&M commit. He's a linebacker. He's the best linebacker in the country. But the fact that Florida is in the conversation for guys like that again shows you what Billy Napier has done in 45 days.
Did you see his commitment?
I didn't see his commitment. I saw they interviewed him. Is it the Hula Bowl? Or it's
it was the Under Armour.
Oh, the Under Armour. Well, he's in like the Polynesian Bowl this week or something.
Is he? Okay.
And they asked him about his Florida visit, and a giant grin went on his face, and he said it was straight fire. I'm not going to lie, straight fire. They asked him who his main recruiters was, and he completely busted out. Napier, Chaney, Tony.
Yeah.
He knew exactly the guys who were recruiting him without hesitation.
I thought his commitment was weird. I watched a little bit of that Under Armour game because we had a quarterback in it.
And he committed to Texas A&M.
He committed to Texas A&M, and the guy asked him, "Are you done with?" No, he said, "Is this 100%?" He said, "Yes." And then the guy asked him, "Are you done with visits?" And he said, "No." And I'm like, somebody needs to explain to him what 100% is.
Right.
Like I don't think he understands this. Man, listen, at the end of the day, here's what these kids are figuring out. If I take my 5 visits and I play this right, then I pick up another 40,000 followers. Because now I got Florida followers, I got Texas A&M followers, I got whoever, Georgia, whoever. What does that mean? More NIL money. More followers mean more NIL money. They're playing this beautifully. If he flips to Florida, fantastic and well played, young man.
And look, the fact, like I said, that Florida's even in the conversation, a far cry from where things were for the better part of the last decade. Really quick, because we didn't talk about this, Trevor Etienne, Travis's brother, committed to Florida at that same Under Armour game. Boy, if
he was Army game. Was he Under Armour?
Yeah, Army game, the Army game. Boy, if he's half the running back his brother was in college, what a get again. Going into Louisiana, Billy Napier, getting Trevor Etienne out of there. I think a lot of people see that name and it brings some intrigue to it. I've seen the tape of him. He looks like a good football player.
Yeah. He's a good player. I mean, all these guys are good players, but you can definitely see that same burst that his brother had. So, no, it's exciting times. When you said one more thing, I thought we were going to end the show on basketball. I was like,
we are recording this before the Mississippi State game. Mississippi State and Florida tonight. Florida did beat South Carolina on Saturday to get to 1-3 in conference play, 10-6 overall. They need to win tonight, and they need to win the next time out because they have a really, really tough stretch coming. The most frustrating thing about basketball, as we do end on this, Auburn has blown right past Florida. Alabama has blown right past Florida.
Arkansas.
LSU, Arkansas, all these teams have blown right past Florida. Mike White's in year 7. That's frustrating. That Florida is a middle-of-the-road, average as the day is long, SEC basketball team.
It's just a tough watch.
It is.
It's the
with all transfers
thing now that it was in year 2. It's the exact same thing. I don't understand why people love Mike White so much. I don't understand. We're going on year 4 of talking about this. Like I can't watch it anymore. I will not watch Gator basketball anymore because I try to do things when I get home that relax me.
Yeah.
And that just makes me mad.
This is the worst Florida shooting team I've ever seen.
I don't know. Is it?
A lot.
Is it? I mean, the last 6 years they've been terrible.
It's last year's shooting team without Trey Mann.
Look, I get the transfer portal in college basketball. I understand it. It's the way it works now. I don't understand how the first 7 guys on your roster are transfers. I don't understand how the University of Florida, who has 2 national championship banners hanging in that building, cannot attract 4- and 5-star talent right out of high school, and you got to go to Penn State, or you got to go to Michigan, or you got to go to Boston College.
The year after you had to go to Virginia Tech.
Right, and get these transfers. That is frustrating, and that is something that needs to change. He is Denny Thompson. I'm the hacker Ryan Green. Next week, more on the recruiting trail, more college basketball. Boy, National Signing Day already less than a month away. Could be a big day for Florida in February. Potentially could add, 3 or 4 more guys. We'll have to see how that works out.
Yeah, at least 3 or 4.
It'll be something. We'll be back next week on Gator Bytes, 1010XL.com, and the Florida Gator 1010XL Facebook page.